Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Peace Etc. and I guide people who grew up in mentally and emotionally unstable homes to become safe and secure in themselves. How are you guys? Are you guys good? I hope you guys are all well. I'm doing really good, and today I want to speak about a topic that I feel very, very passionate about, and it's about the ego. I believe that, the ego gets such a bad rep. Like a lot of what goes wrong in the world and what's wrong in people gets blamed on the ego. But I actually am very fond of the ego. It's really interesting to get to know your ego and the many layers it has. There's so many chickens outside. But, the word ego is used like it's just thrown around, but I don't think that people in general have a sense of what it really is. And so I wanted to give you guys my take on it and why I think it's not a bad thing to be in your ego or to have an ego. So ego, I believe, has two states. It can be wounded and it can be healthy. And this is very broad, okay? In the wounded state, there are also two states from personal experience. I've come to this conclusion or this idea. When your ego is wounded, on one extreme, it can flare up and dominate other people and be so proud and loud of themselves to a point where it can be self-righteous. This flare-up, you can imagine it as like peacocking. You're peacocking and showing the world how great you are. It's all about you. It's your show. And you're not taking into consideration other people. That other people are going through their own things, have their own lives, have their own perspectives, their ideas, their thoughts. They have a heart, whatever it is. Like, you're only thinking about yourself because you believe that that's how you take care of yourself. You can get so caught up in your own ideas, again, to the point of self-righteousness. And what else did I experience in the state? Yeah, you're so concerned about being right. You're not able to take into account other people's perspectives or anything that goes against your idea. You take that as a threat. So then you puff up even more in order to protect your ideas, because your fragile state of being relies on you being right in order to feel good, in order to feel a sense of worthiness and safety. Anything that opposes your views makes you crumble inside and makes safety slip away. And so you want to hold your beliefs, hold your ideas very, very dear to you, like near to you and dear to you, so that you feel safe, in control, in your power. But you're actually not powerful. You're very fragile in this puffed up state. There are some more traits that I brainstormed. Yeah, and you're very concerned about making other people see your perspective. And you're very dominating in this state. You're aggressive. You're kind of on a high. This is what I experienced. You're kind of on a high from being so self-righteous and thinking that you got everything right in your own small world, small, narrow world. You're on adrenaline. But it's very easy for you to burn out in this state. And then on the other, you want to take up as much space as possible. And you take up other people's space because you feel entitled to other people's space, time, energy. It's all about you. You're super, super, super self-centered. And I think this is what people mean when they say you're egoistic. On the other end of the spectrum, of the wounded ego spectrum, is the ego self, the wounded ego that plays very small, doesn't have any sense of self-worth. I mean, both doesn't have a sense of self-worth, but this is the wounded ego that is cowering and puts other people above themselves, creates space for others, but not for themselves, is afraid to speak up, is afraid to show the real you or real self, their opinions, their beliefs, perceptions. They're very withdrawn, timid. And when I was in this state, or when I go into this state, I notice that like I can be very chameleon-like. I mold myself to suit anyone that I'm around in order to gain their approval, acceptance, their love, validation. In this state, I'm very small, and it's like I don't have any sense of agency. Like, I don't have any control over my life. I'm letting other people control my life and decide what's best for me, what's good for me, to give me advice, to tell me what to do, how to live, how to be. It's very tiring in its own sense. But in both states, you're not connected to your inner compass. In the wounded ego state where you're very small, you feel disconnected from your inner compass. You don't even see it. It's like you're lost. And then in your flared up, puffed up, like peacock ego state, you feel connected to an inner compass. You feel like something is your compass, but that's not really your compass. You still aren't connected really to yourself, to your inner compass and your inner guidance system. So different expressions of the wounded ego, but they both make up the wounded ego. And I think your upbringing, how you were raised and what your response was to external stress and pain determines like how you show up, or how the wounded ego can show up. Even for me, like I showed up a lot as this wounded ego self that gave others space and created little space for myself. But there are some instances where I would peacock. So different contexts can bring up different wounded ego states. So that's the wounded ego. But there's also a healthy ego, your personality. It's what you were born with, like your spirit expresses itself through your personality. So you need a personality to be here on earth. It's responsible. It has clues to what your purpose is, like what your inner compass and what your true north is, what you are like, what you like, what you don't like, how you are. And this healthy ego accepts you as you are. This healthy ego state is you without any conditions. So it's your wonder child self. You want to show more of that. You want to be more of that because it's who you came here to be. And in saying that the healthy ego knows what you like, what you don't like, what your preferences are, what your interests are, passions, all of that. Your wounded ego can tell you what your needs are, what you like, what you don't like as well. So I just want to say that, like they are as great of teachers as your healthy ego self or your healthy ego. So your healthy ego, right? Like when you're connected to your ego in a healthy way, when your healthy ego can come through, you're radiant. You're glowing because like you are being who you came here to be. So do we want to eliminate that? I don't think so. Do we want to detach ourselves from our inner compass and our true north? I don't think so. I think what's important is to make sure you check in with yourself regularly, daily, and foster a connection with yourself so you know if you're operating in your wounded ego states or your healthy ego state. And also discover what your wounded ego looks like, what it talks like, what their thoughts are, what their experiences are, what they want and need, how they want love and acceptance and validation. And give that to yourself. And also in your healthy ego state, discover what their needs are, what they want to do, what makes them feel happy, seen, heard, validated. And do more of that. I think what's important is that you're connected to all these states and that you get to choose how to be. You have agency over your ego. Sometimes, you can slip into your unhealthy or wounded ego without really realizing it. The ego states can be insidious, but, that's part of being human. I think what's important is to catch yourself, to become good at noticing and catching yourself, having an awareness of where you're at and how you're operating in the world. But I don't think you need to eliminate the ego. It's the seat of your spirit. As long as we're here on earth, we're going to have an ego. We're going to have a personality, who we came here to be, how we are. Of course, your personality can change over time, and you can show up differently. Your tastes, your likes, dislikes, your passions and interests can evolve over time. Your ego can also evolve with you, I think. And I think it does evolve with you. But I don't believe that it's going to fall away or it's going to disappear. And I don't think it needs to disappear. Just as long as you have that connection, which is really important. What I do in inner child healing is to guide you to befriend your ego. Your inner child is your wounded ego self. And your wonder child self, as I mentioned earlier, as I touched on earlier, is your healthy ego self. What we want to do is build that connection. Become aware of what they look like, what they sound like, what they feel like, what they desire, and all that I've mentioned in this video already. And to live more as your wonder child self or your healthy ego self. I think that it's a waste of time trying to eliminate your ego because it'll make you unhappy. I tried for a long time and it just led me feeling like either hollow or like I was so against, it was the world against me, and it didn't feel right because I wasn't being considerate of other people and I felt separation and disconnect from other people in both egos. In both wounded ego states, actually, I felt separation. When I am in a healthy ego state, then I am very, very connected and in tune with myself. And also I feel a part of the bigger whole, of the collective, and I feel connected to other people. Being in a healthy ego state allows you to open your heart and let your personality shine, so you can connect to people in your world as you, with an open heart. I don't want to be connected to others from my wounds. I was for a long time, and I stopped doing that. My heart wasn't open either when I was in my wounded ego states. But once I've reached a point on my journey where I discover what my wonder child looks like, and at that time, like at the same time that I was discovering my wonder child, as well as my inner child, my heart was starting to get more healed and full and open up. And so I was able to form genuine connections with people. And it felt great, you know? It's nice to be connected. Not just with the world, but also to yourself. And our ego allows us to do that. So, to wrap things up, in my belief, the ego isn't a bad thing. We all have an ego. And our egos can take many forms and have different expressions. So ask yourself, what expression is your ego today? And let that be the beginning point of your discovery and developing a connection with your ego and its different sides, different phases. Is there anything more I want to say? No, I think I'm good. So I hope this message finds you well and helps you on your journey. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments below. And yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, or follow, and share the video with whoever you think would benefit from seeing this. So there's more people who are free on this planet. Freedom starts from the inside out. Ciao.